begin this evening with an opening prayer. Ron Langbecker will offer that for us, and then Victor Schaefer will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll get right to the debate.
Father in heaven, we thank you for this opportunity to meet tonight and meet these candidates for political office. We ask for the guidance spirit tonight, and also the gift of discernment that those in attendance may make decisions as to who to choose for this office, and that we may choose the candidate that best suits this area and the wishes of the general public. And we ask for these blessings in the name of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Everybody please stand.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're likely to have some folks trickling in here as we go. Just to let you all know a little bit about the format of the debate, we'll have each one of the candidates make an opening statement, about 2 minutes long, and then we will get to the questions, and we will alternate back and forth between who goes first on the questions. The original person to answer the question will have 2 minutes to answer the question, or Mona will have 2 minutes, and then the first person to respond will have 1 minute of rebuttal. So for those of you keeping score, those are the rules by which we'll play. Let's go ahead and begin, and we're going to start with our incumbent candidates, Evan Vickers, and we'll ask you please. Do you want to? Right up. Okay, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Evan would like to have Barry go first, and so Barry will start with your opening statements. You have 2 minutes.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of you who did come out tonight. I really appreciate you coming out here. I also want to thank Evan for agreeing to hold this debate with me. Certainly as the incumbent, he has far more to lose here tonight than I do, so I appreciate him giving me this opportunity. I'm running for this office because, frankly, I've examined Mr. Vickers' voting record as a member of the legislature, and I disagree with many of the votes that he cast. I'm not calling him a bad guy, I'm saying we disagree. And I believe that when we hold elections, it's for the purpose of giving us an opportunity to say who we agree with and whether our representatives are actually representing our best interests. So I'm here tonight to let you know a little bit about his voting record. I'm going to be talking about that through the evening. We're going to talk about very specific things that have gone on with that. And I won't go into a lot of those right now because we're going to get to that all through the course of this. But I appreciate the opportunity that has been presented to me to possibly represent the people of this district in the state legislature. And once again, I thank you for being here. We'll get on to the meat of things.
Thanks. I appreciate you coming as well. I appreciate the school district and those who have helped set this meeting up. It's been a privilege for me to serve in the legislature the last 2 years. I've had a lot of opportunities in my life to do some good things and have some trials and do some things in my life. But, one thing I want you to know about it, I think that if you're going to vote for someone, you need to know a little bit of their background. You need to know where they're coming from. I think that helps you understand what their values are, what they're maybe going to try to do. But I'm a rural guy. Okay? I was born in Pankish. I was raised in Beaver. I went to school at the University of Utah. I graduated pharmacy in 1977. I met my wife there. We moved back to Beaver, moved to Cedar City in 1980. So, most of my life I've grown up in this area of the state. We have 5 children. 2 of them are pharmacists and work with us in our stores. We own 4 businesses in Cedar City. We own Bullet Drug, Wooden Lace Place, Comforts Palm on Main Street, and then we own Township Pharmacy out by the hospital as well. It's been, as far as political background, I've been involved in local politics here in Cedar City for over 25 years. I served on the city council for 12 years. I ran for mayor one time. want you to know how much I appreciate it. It's been an honor to serve, and I would, if re-elected, I will continue to do my very best to represent our area.
All right, let's begin with some questions to get to know our candidates better. Deb, you okay if I go to you first on this one?
Sure.
Okay. Right out of the chute. Illegal immigration. This has been on a lot of people's lips, and there's a great question as to the role that a state legislature should play in addressing this. How do you think Utah should handle the illegal immigration question?
Thanks. You know, and that's obviously that's a question I knew was going to come up. And, you know, I'm not going to go through the whole ramifications of the federal government not doing their job or anything like that. Now, Arizona put it really on point because their legislation they passed was an enforcement type legislation. And, you know, it's kind of forced our hand. Utah is going to have to address this in this next legislative session. Part of that is going to have to be some type of enforcement legislation. We're going to have to be able to identify, especially, you know, if you look at immigration, you're looking at, obviously you want to get rid of the criminals. That's the first thing we think of. And then the second thing we think of is the cost from the social service. So there's going to have to be a way to identify, address, and get those people to the federal government so they can be deported. But there's another component, because if you go talk to the ranchers and the farmers in our area, those people, they have utilized these people coming in to do work for a long, long time. So if you just kick the bums out, there's ramifications. If you let everybody stay in, there's ramifications. So number one, we're going to have some kind of enforcement provision, but then we really need to work on some way to allow legitimate working immigrants to stay. And so that's something we can work on. Is it going to be easy? No. So I would suspect that what's going to happen in this legislative session is you're going to have an enforcement bill that's come out by Steve Sandstrom's Utah County. That's the one that's the most prominent right now, probably closest to the Arizona bill. You'll see something along those lines, whether it be his bill or someone else's. And there'll be other people that come forward with some type of a worker provision as well. So that's where I hope it ends up, and that's where I would most support. Obviously, I support the enforcement provision when it comes up, but I also want to be able to support some type of a way to allow those people to work in the state if they're legitimate and not cause problems.
Okay, very good response.
We're close to the same page there, although I have to say that I have some very serious reservations about individual enforcement as proposed in the Arizona legislation. And I probably should point out that legislation from Arizona was 17 pages, of which only 3 pages actually dealt with enforcement against individuals. The other 14 pages dealt with enforcement against corporations, businesses which systematically and intentionally employ illegal immigrants. And I completely agree with that part of the legislation. That's where I believe our efforts need to be focused. The problem with enforcement against individuals is that it's just not effective, and it's certainly not cost effective. To try to go out and get rid of all of the illegal immigrants in Utah one at a time would cost several times more than whatever we're losing in social services benefits. It's sort of like if you have an anthill in your backyard, you don't go out there and try to crush the ants one at a time because you're not really going to accomplish anything. So we've got to make sure that whatever we do is cost effective and doesn't just drain our resources and accomplish nothing. We want to make sure that whatever we're doing is going to actually help with the problem, not just allow it to be perpetuated at great cost to the state.
Have your rebuttal?
No rebuttal, just I agree as far as the enforcement on the employment side, but we just have to remember that there is a legitimate use for those people to be working in some category, in some area. So when we enforce that, we need to have a provision to allow those people who have gone through the process to become documented workers to be allowed to be able to work.
Okay. The next question will start with Barry. Barry, what specific bills would you plan or attempt to introduce during the coming term? In other words, what is your agenda beyond responding to the agendas of other legislators?
All right, thank you. Actually, I have a list of things, so I can find it in my stack of stuff. There are a number of things. One of the things I want to talk about quite a bit are ethics issues, because I think our legislature has done a very poor job of establishing ethics provisions for itself, and I want to see us expand on that quite a bit. And I want to, what's that sheet? I want to get this because I've actually got it on the list here. Oh, okay, here we go. Some of these are things that I'll probably be talking about a little more depth before. One of the bills from this past session, HB 150, which involved administrative subpoenas and made it easier for attorneys and law enforcement to issue administrative subpoenas, that is, without going to a judge and asking for a subpoena. I would like to see that bill repealed. SB 81, which were amendments to the eminent domain bill, I would like to see that repealed. I'd like to, a couple of election points. Section 289201, subsection 2A2, which would allow political parties to nominate anyone they want for office. As the law exists now in Utah, they must nominate a member of their own party. There's no particular reason for the state to deny that. What it does is it prevents fusion candidacies, where a candidate could, for example, be nominated by two parties simultaneously. There's no reason for the state to insert itself in that position, so I'd like to see that changed. Also, section 20A3-106, that's the straight line party voting option on your voting machines when you go to vote. That's really an antiquated concept that dates from the days when a lot of Americans were illiterate. Okay.
Thanks. You know, what I've learned in the legislature, there are different ways to define success. Some legislators, their definition of success is, I'm going to run a bill for everything. You know, and you'll see that they run 15, 20, 30 bills. Others, you know, and I take a little different approach. I'll run a number of bills, specific legislation that have direct specific areas. And I'll help people with other bills to try to make it better, or either, you know, have it succeed or be conceded. You know, I've had the opportunity to run, I sit on the Revenue and Taxation Committee, so I run a number of tax bills that have to improving the code. I've worked with the DWR on issues. I've worked on healthcare issues. I specifically have one healthcare bill that I'm working on right now, have done for the last couple of years. It has potential to save the state of Utah about $100 million a year, so it's not penny ante. You know, I'm always looking at working with the individuals who are working on the controlled substance database, because it's something that's part of my profession. I understand that. And those individuals have been seeking my help, and so I've been working and assisting them. Healthcare reform, those are issues that we continue to go forward. So those are some of the things that I've worked on, I'll continue to work for. I've also got another bill that's in the hopper that, you know, we're still, and I'm working with law enforcement on it. You know, it may be deemed an immigration bill, but it's really not. It has to do with car registration, just because of the year it is. The tone of it may be looked at as an immigration bill. You know, those are just some of the things I have worked on, will be working on. I try to find areas where I have expertise, where I have ability, working, you know, through the committees that I work on to work on things that have potential to make our state a better state.
Very good.